This episode of the Disruption Lab is taped in front of a live studio audience. I've been anxious to get you on stage for a while, for a variety of reasons. I think mostly because you, I think, sit in a really interesting societal position in that you're leading both an economic movement and you're also leading a creative movement. But they seem to be tied together. So I'm curious, Brandon, what connects the work that you're doing with, Kansas City Gift and Blurred Comics? Like, what's that thread between capital and community from your perspective?
Yeah. So what I do at Kansas City Gifts, is nonprofit. We give grants to Black-owned businesses on the east side of Kansas City, help them grow, scale, and create jobs, mainly so they are employing individuals that live in that area, creating an economic engine, help to create a better east side, better Kansas City for everybody. And so there's that. And then when it comes to Blurred Comics and really Blurred Media Group, is the goal of creating anime and manga that are representative of just Black people, Black culture. And the through line, the thread for both of those is passion and logic. What we do at Gifts, the motivated and reason behind starting the work there and growing it and continuing it, is because it's necessary, right? I grew up on the east side of Kansas City. I understand the challenges of poverty, the challenges of violence, the challenges of feeling like nobody cares about the situations that you live in, and then also understanding how intentional that was. Like the environment that I grew up in was systemically and intentionally created through a lot of laws and policies and just practices. And so to me, it's just, I love Kansas City, and I see this massive injustice, and I see a clear way to resolve it, right? Of intentionally helping these businesses grow to stimulate the economy on the east side in that specific way, has a massive effect. And so I'm passionate about it because it's personal to me, and it's logical because there's the ability to do it. And then when we look at, I am a huge nerd. I love anime and comics and manga and all of that. And as an individual, I want to see myself in the stuff that I love. And there's a whole community of blurs that are growing around that as well. And then just the logic behind, the market opportunity of, we've had the same superheroes, over and over and over again for years, and the thing that is growing the most in popularity right now is, anime and manga. And so it's passion and logic in that as well. And with both of these kind of together, there are systems that have kept Black and brown people out of access to capital are not dissimilar from the systems that keep Black and brown people out of popular media representation, and so just attacking that from multiple ways, it just passion and logic.
Hurston Fales was the first one that turned me on to the phrase blurred, and I've grown to appreciate the number of, I think, blurs I run around with these days is growing. What was the founding story behind that? Like, when and you now it's Blurred Media Group because you got Blurred TV, you've got more properties that have come under that. But what was the genesis of that for you?
Yeah, I'm an actionable guy, right? So a buddy of mine, we were literally just sitting around talking about how cool it would be to have our own anime, right? To be able to create and just completely control our own anime. And I was like, well, if somebody's going to do it, so let's do it.
Why not me? Yeah. All right.
And then, anime starts with comics, so manga, and I spent 2 years just, I mean, so at that was it, right? And growing up, so I was the fat ugly kid, right? And nobody lets you forget that, right? And one of the things that was just a typical avenue of just escaping reality was Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So there was a connection to that, and so when the idea came of like, we can do this thing, I really didn't give it a thought of to why I couldn't do it, and so that was in 2018, and I spent 2 years learning how to write a comic because I was so terrified that my comics were going to come out like he walked the dog. Right? Like I was like, yeah, I'm not writing a bad story. So yeah, I spent 2 years trying to just figure out, just learning, watching videos, reading.
Was it the writing side of that had you worried versus the technical side of that, the graphic? Like, do you have a background in graphic art?
No. I don't. The comics that you see that I produce, I don't draw those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I
so it's the storytelling piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I contract with an artist for each different comic. And that's part of where there's the intersectionality come in. One of the things I love is business. Business is real fun for me, right? Yeah. And so I can write the comic, and then basically from there it's project management and back office operations to get it published, and then customer acquisition to get it into the hands of the people.
Yeah, I got you. All right, that's and so. But you launched. When did you launch? So you spent 2 years. It's 2018 to 2020.
Yep.
Oh, hello, pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, May of 2020, we launched Gift. And again, just stuck at home for a lot of time. I don't know how, but we found more time, and I just decided to like write the script. I think it was, Jay Allen, Jaquan Allen, yeah. And so I connected with him, and back in October of 2020, and we were talking about it. And he was like, "Man, the biggest thing that stops somebody from actually having their idea and publishing a fully finished comic is that they can't write the script." And so he sent me a small little, literally like a 5-sentence template of what his script looked like. Okay. And I was like, "Oh, I can do that." And so still the few hundred pages that I've written have been in that format. And so yeah, I remember I locked myself in my room for a Saturday and just wrote the whole first comic, and then found an artist and did the Kickstarter and brought it to life. So October 2020 when I wrote the script, and then January I think we launched the Kickstarter, and then we actually printed it in hand by March of 21.
That's impressive, man. Seriously, that's pretty cool. So I want to go back to the Kansas City Gift side. So you talk about the systemic structures that have created the situation in so many communities, and particularly east of Troost in East Kansas City, Missouri. The work that you've done with Gift, I know when you and I talked previously, you were talking about it's about creating jobs. It's not just about funding companies and funding startups, but it's about creating jobs.
Right.
What does that empowerment look like when it's created, by and with the community, alongside the work that you've been doing? What does that look like differently than some of the other things that you've seen out there?
Yeah, it looks like grace and understanding first. Like, gosh, I get a typical question that I get is like, what was one surprising thing that I learned in just starting Gift, right?
Sure.
And so, I've always been somewhat arrogant. I've always I like to learn, and I like to make sure I know this, which is why I spent 2 years trying to figure out how to do this thing before I did it. And that first year of Gift, a lot of rooms I walked into, I was met with the assumption of incompetence, right? Of like, have you thought through this, or have you done this, or have you done that, or have you worked through this, or why are you doing that, or this is going to fail, or you guys don't really know what you're doing over here. And
I can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was I don't know, it was surprising. It was surprising how often it happened, how frequent it happened, and it was really consistent of who it was happening from, right? And so what what that looks like when it comes from us, like from the community. It first it looks like, again, compassion and grace, right? Like we're not coming in with the assumption of incompetence. When somebody comes in to gift and they're talking about their business or pitching their business or sitting down, I'm assuming that they have thought this out and that they know what they're talking. Now we know that most entrepreneurs have not thought out their
Sure,
thing, and they
sure.
don't always know what they're talking about.
Sure.
But we starting from that benchmark, and then there's representation. When you see somebody that looks like they are in a seat of power in a in an avenue that you want to be in, or that you're actively trying to be in, it creates more of a drive, more of a motivator to say, look, I can do that.
You organized a walk a few months ago, and I think it was the second time you did that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was.
Tell me about that. Like, how did that come about? What were you hoping to accomplish? And the second year you did it, I mean, we had something going on, or I was going to be there. Ben, you guys met early in the morning too, man. I had a board meeting that morning, but tell me about that walk. Tell me, did you reach the goals that you wanted to in the second year?
Well, so we did it twice, but so I did it twice. Starting from the beginning, I'm prior Army. I wanted to do a long ruck, and so I was looking for a place to do that. And wanting to do that, and trying to figure out where would I do something like that. The logical thought for me was Troost, right? Troost starts at 15th Street, it goes all the way down to 95th Street. It's a 10-mile ruck. I met with an Army buddy, and I was talking to him about it, and he was like, "Oh, so you're gonna do it, and then you're gonna turn around and go back. You're gonna do 20, right?" And which was not my plan. That was not my plan. But he did guilt me into turning around and going back.
Really? Okay. Yeah, so the first time you did it both ways.
Yeah.
All
well,
right.
When I was talking to him about it, I decided to do it. I called another friend and said, "Hey, can you drop me off 4 a.m. on 15th Street?" And so I was really just wanting to walk up Troost. And I figured while I'm here, because of the work that we do at Gift, we have either funded most of the Black-owned businesses on Troost or have turned away the other ones that we haven't funded, or they've come into our business center for some kind of services. And so because of that, there were businesses there that are Black-owned that I happen to know were Black-owned that probably most people might not know. And so while I'm walking up Troost, I figured I'll stop in front of all of the businesses, take pictures, post about it. And a couple of things happened. One, I was able to just see Troost from a different vantage point, see the development that has come to Troost over the past, 10, 15 years, and how it doesn't look like the stereotypical version of Troost that still kind of floats around today. And so that was cool. And then when I posted about all the stuff, a lot of people said, "Hey, next time you do that, let me know."
And you called their bluff.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's because Mayor also reached out and said that he wanted to do it, because me and him, we had talked about it before the first one as well, and so we picked a date. And everybody said, "Let me know when you do it." And so the one thing people are not going to say to me is that, "Hey, I told you I would do it, but you didn't tell me." I'm like, "No, I'm going to tell everybody that said they wanted to know." And then I made a general post about it, but I was committed to not convincing anybody to do it because it was 5. We had to be there at 5 a.m. Apparently, it was the hottest day of the summer. And be committed and prepared to walk 10 miles. And I'm like, you got to be personally motivated to do that. I can't convince you to do it. I wouldn't even want to because, you might get out there, you might pass out. It's not safe. Right? And so I wasn't really expecting a whole bunch of people to come, but Mayor shared it. It got picked up on a couple of news stations. We got 100 RSVPs. And we got there 5 a.m., 15th and Troost, 70 people. We ended up walking all the way down, and then about 3 of us turned around and came back, so did the full 20. And the main goal was highlighting the development that has come to Troost uplifting the black-owned businesses that were on Troost, right? And so using this just massive physical effort to drive some economic development, specifically from people that that can't come to Troost, in the past 5, 10, or 15 years. And so yeah, there's a long way of saying, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. We will do it again.
Okay, you make this an annual thing. Is that the goal?
Yeah, we'll make it an annual thing. We'll test it again. I guess, yeah, as you can see, I'm still I'm skeptical. I'm like, why did 70 people show up committed to walk 10 miles on a hot August day? So we'll do it again. We'll do it cool on May or late May, early June, so it'll be cooler. We'll do it on a Saturday, let more people come, and we'll see how big it gets, and we'll do some vending stuff. So we'll activate some of the black-owned businesses, activate some of the Troost businesses, and we'll see how the turnout is.
70 surprise you? That when you saw the 70 people show up actually at that time, did that surprise you?
Yeah, it was surprising. It was surprising. I mean, it was a Friday. It was 5 a.m. on a Friday morning in mid-August, and they all came and they all had on shirts that said Kansas City Gift, and so we were walking up and down Troost.
Well, that was my question. Like, where'd they get the shirts? Did you guys produce those shirts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so those are we give those shirts to donors,
okay,
to
you had
volunteers.
Yeah.
And so when we were doing this, we were like, oh yeah, we got these shirts. We might as well give them these shirts. And so, we had a wave of people walking down the street with KC Gift on, and, people stopping and like, oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? And so just marketing wise, it was also great.
Yeah, it was impressive to watch. And like I said, I was we had a board meeting that morning, or I would have been there, man. And I'll be there next year.
Yeah,
especially if it's on a Saturday.
Yep.
I'm not worried about the weather, but I appreciate you doing it when it's a little cooler, though. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people were complaining about the weather.
Oh, I'm sure, but they still walked.
They
still did it. Yeah.
They did.
So entrepreneurship, in the work you're doing, that side, like the business mentoring, the business advising, like working with entrepreneurs, it's an interesting group of people to work with.
Yeah, it is.
And then on the creative side of what you do, like what do you see, the storytelling? And we always talk about the need for better storytelling in entrepreneurship, the need for better storytelling. What do you see, like, do you feel like the storytelling from entrepreneurship and what we need to do there, and then what you're doing with Blurred Media, do you feel like there's a creative commonality between those two types of storytelling?
Oh yeah, I mean, storytelling is storytelling. The content of the stories are very different, but the type of storytelling is not different at all, right? And so in the comics that I'm writing and producing and all of that, we are creating a emotional connection to something that you care about, right? It might be that main character, it might be the world that character is in. It might be, you might actually care more about one of the side character stories, but we're creating a compelling narrative that pulls you in so that you become emotionally connected to what we're doing on the page in the comic. And when it comes to storytelling, we especially in the nonprofit space, where storytelling is, I have a saying that to our staff: storytelling is our stock price, right? Like if I look at Netflix and I'm invested in Netflix, I don't know how good is my investment doing, right? I could look at the stock price, and if it's rising, then overall that's fine. If I'm donating to a nonprofit, I don't know how good is my investment doing. Like I have to actually hear the stories from that nonprofit so that I know that my investment is actually being taken care of.
Brilliant, man, and I've never even heard anybody say that too.
I mean, you're still creating that same emotional connection, that emotional investment, and you got to figure out, it has to pay off somehow, right? And so that's what storytelling is in nonprofit, and even when you're operating a for-profit business, you got to figure out a compelling way to get your customer invested in what you're doing and convince them, help them believe that their payoff is the moment that they purchase from you. It's all the same storytelling.
Yeah. How do you guys decide which businesses to fund. And I guess maybe underlying that, how do you ensure, your goal is not to just put money and capital into the businesses to ensure that there's job growth.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about, how you guys manage that decision-making process of evaluating which ones should be funded. And then also how do you ensure that that job growth and that sustainability past grant occurs as well?
Yeah. So I'll talk about what we do on the front end and what we do on the back end. And then our basic criteria, 51% black owned in our target area. So east of Troost, Raytown, or Grandview, they have to have a revenue generating plan, right? And so it can't just be, hey, I have a great business, fund me, right? It is.
Do they have to have proven that it's revenue generating? So they have to have already have generated revenue?
Oh, that's a good point. They do have to have been generating revenue for 3 months.
Okay.
Right.
So they have to have an existing business that's generating some revenue. All right.
An existing business that's generating revenue. And one example is that we had a business, Hall Pros. So it's a trucking and moving company. He had one truck. He had great word of mouth. He was turning away a whole bunch of business. His plan was to purchase a second truck and an interstate license, interstate certification, so that he could be able to do those bigger moves, right? So we did that. He immediately hired like 2 to 3 more guys, and that $25,000 that we gave him, he went from making $8,000 a quarter to $100,000 a quarter, because he had just increased his revenue generating potential. And so it has to be a plan, like a clear, logical plan, that not just give me more money. If I buy some new shoes, I can work harder. Like it got to be a clear plan. They have to have the ability and willingness to grow and create jobs, right? And so that's our basic criteria. And then our process is that you fill out an application. We have a grant committee that reviews those applications and weighs them against our criteria. If they meet that criteria, if the application is decent enough to pass grant committee, it goes to our full board. And so, like a couple of months ago, we had 17 that made it past grant committee. And so our board looked at those 17, and we had to cut it from 17 down to 4. And then we brought those 4 in for in-person interviews. Okay. And we make them, they throw up a pitch deck. We make them stand in front of us and repitch their whole application all over again, because sometimes you find that they had somebody else write the application and they don't really know
the story as well as they should.
And that's a aggressive process. We are actively trying to tear the business apart, or tear the plan apart. And then after that, we decide who gets that grant, and then the back end processes happen, where they have to meet with an attorney to do a legal hygiene check. They have to meet with our accountant.
Now, those are stipulations of getting the grant, is you have to agree to do these things.
Oh yeah. So they don't. So we tell them, hey, you've won the grant. Here's all of the things that you have to do before we even get to the part where you get any money. Okay. Right. And so it is those things. The lawyer, the accountant, then they're meeting with and so in the accountant, we're doing due diligence, making sure that they didn't lie to us on any of the stuff they said, which has happened to us, I think, 2 times in the past 5 years. Yep. Right, where we've made the grant, we've gotten to that point, and then I had the pleasure of calling them and saying, hey, because I'm the bad news deliverer, I'm not the good news deliverer. Sure. And so I called them and said, hey, we cannot move forward with this grant. And then they sign a contract with our COO that says they will continue to operate in Kansas City for a year. They will use the money the way that they say that they will use it. And they will send us quarterly financial reports so that we can continue to monitor their growth. We also make them use our bookkeeper. So we pay for bookkeeping for them for a year, but we pay our bookkeeper to do it. So that when they are creating new jobs, when we need to look at their P&L, we have a direct path to do that.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And then you guys also provide like mentoring, like you guys provide like support services on the back end of that as well.
Yeah.
Too,
so
right?
when they get the grant, they also get that year's worth of bookkeeping. they get a year's worth of business coaching. So one of our employees becomes their business coach for a year.
Okay.
We pay Crux to do small business marketing package for them, and then we're partnered with a few different law firms now. So Polsinelli, Levy Craig, Hush Blackwell.
Gotcha.
And so we give them legal services for a year as well.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. How many businesses have you guys funded so far?
Where we at? 1,954,000.
I knew it was going to happen because when we sat down for coffee and you were throwing out very exact, and I was like, "Damn, this guy's got his stuff straight." But I think you told me you had just gone through some of that. You were just looking at that.
Yeah. So we have 1,954,000, or no, 56,000 is what we've given out so far. 79 different businesses, 153 new jobs created, and then 209% is the average revenue growth a year after they've gotten a grant from us.
It's impressive, man.
Yep.
Seriously.
And then, so that's our grant program. We also have a business center.
Yep.
So 50th and Prospect, it is all of those, the same back office support. So business coaching, accounting, marketing, legal services, headshots, website development, product photos, co-working space, all of that to so our grant program is obviously for our grantees or for Black businesses on the east side. Our business center is for anybody that is not a gift grant recipient.
Okay.
And so it's any small business anywhere can come into our business center and utilize those services. And so we've had 8,300 appointments in the past 3 years. 2,650 people have come into it. So
that's a lot of folks, man.
Yeah, we get a lot of traffic.
So let me ask you, we always talk about misconceptions that like in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And we talk about, maybe misunderstood differences around how macroeconomics and microeconomics and some of these things work and how the need for, innovation-led, Main Street, Second State, all the different categories of entrepreneurship. When I think about misconceptions, I'm curious as your perspective, not on that issue, but on what do you think is the one misconception you'd like to overcome when we talk about things like economic development? And or, what does it take to sustainably revitalize a neighborhood?
Yeah, I don't know. This feels like a cop-out answer. But I think when we talk about economic development, it feels like what people are wanting to hear is the easy thing of, okay, we just need housing, or we just need jobs, or we just need businesses, or, we just need, higher earning potential residents, right? And the challenge, I think the misconception in economic development is that it should be easy. Like it should be one, easy solution, when the reality is that it has to be a multifaceted approach. And so to me, it kind of doesn't necessarily even make sense for organizations to kind of operate in the silos that they operate in. And when we look at partnering with other organizations, one of the things that we like to do, we like to partner with organizations that are outside of our lane, right? And so we like to partner with organizations that are in working to increase quality education in schools, working to increase home ownership, working to increase the quality and volume of workforce development. Like the typical easy thing to say is, here's the sector, it's housing, or it's education, or it's this or it's that. Let's fund that. Let's make that happen. But it has to be deep investment across multiple sectors, kind of all at once, to really, really move needles.
Yeah, tell people it's not simple addition, it's algebra.
Yeah.
If we're not thinking about it as algebra, then we're missing the point.
It might even be calculus.
Yeah, facts. For sure. And then on the revitalizing a neighborhood, same kind of issues and nuances of complexity and so on.
Yeah, there is that. Also with, I think there's the added layer of we try to do things for communities instead of with communities. And so when we revitalize a neighborhood, who is we, right? They're just coming into the community and, all of the, elected officials, the leaders, the stakeholders making the decisions about that, but you don't have the people on the block also. And then, there's some basic public safety things and basic, human enrichment things, but you can't always tell people what's better for them. They might like the way they like some of the things that are actually happening there, like some of the things the way it is. And so really getting that buy-in is the other layer when it comes to neighborhood investment.
Do you feel like that's changed over the last decade? Were you seeing more of it or not enough of it still? I mean, probably not enough of it's an easy answer, but
I don't think there's enough of it still going on. I can't say how much it has grown or decreased over the last decade. I don't know. I've been in this work for 5 years, and even then, and getting into it, I had a whole lot of stuff to learn in doing that.
So speaking of learning, what has been your biggest learning around, so watching you scale Gift, watching the, go from where you started to, where you're at now and the numbers that you're able to recite off the top of your head, which I'm still impressed by. But keeping the authenticity and the trust that you started with when you started Gift, like what have you learned about scaling and those and keeping that balance of authenticity and trust?
What have I learned about that? It hadn't occurred to me that we wouldn't. It really didn't. It hadn't occurred to me that we would. So in growth, I think I was prepared, but also learned even more so that when you start to grow, the number of opportunities and partnerships and all of that would just come all directions, and most of them will not be beneficial to you. And we were committed. I think I had a bad reputation because I said no to almost everything, right? Because I was really focused on, we are here to grow black businesses, create jobs, reduce your racial wealth gap, reduce poverty-related crime. This is what we're doing. This is how we do it. And so when the question came up about youth entrepreneurship, like, no, we're not doing that. They do that, but we're not doing that. When it came up around workforce development, when it came up around home ownership, just around lending, right? Because
right.
it was like, no, we're not doing that because we don't. That's not what we do, and we stayed really committed to that. And because of that, the team just also stayed really committed. I think if you asked anybody we had 7 staff. If you asked anybody on the staff, they would also say it probably never occurred to them that we wouldn't do that, because we stayed relentlessly committed to what we set out to do, and stayed committed to our main revenue stream, which was individuals. And so with those two things of, we're doing this for the people, we stand, we sticking with doing what we said we would do, while also constantly recognizing that we're only able to do this because individuals, invest in us to the level that allows us to be able to do this. And then storytelling, right? And those two things become integral parts of the story. It feels somewhat impossible to shift from it.
To lose where you're at, lose who you are. What was your motivation for that model? Because that's interesting. Like, you've grown this thing mostly off of individual giving. Had you seen that model somewhere else before? Was this like something? I think I remember when you were rolling it out, you were talking about how the community can invest in itself just through small donations and these monthly donations that you set up.
Yeah. So prior to starting Gift, I worked at United Way, right? And United Way is a different organization now, but it was struggling with 100-year-old model, right? And I watched United Way raise $20 million a year, asking everybody to give a little bit of money, right, through their workplace giving model. I also watched a significant amount of dollars lost year after year after year because of failures in customer retention, that had to do with the changing in the model. People weren't staying at the workplace for 20 years. They weren't staying at a job for 20 years and then retiring. But there was no direct to consumer, or there was not a big direct to consumer push for that. And I also saw United Way raise that 20 million and spread it to 19 different target areas. And if you're trying to solve 19 problems all at once, how many of those problems are you actually going to solve? And so being there, seeing that, I don't know, my logical thought was we need a black version of United Way, right? We need something that is asking everybody for a little bit of money and then focusing it really, really, really specifically on one single problem on the east side of Kansas City that would actually have transformative impacts on the black community. And then when we do that, and if we're successful enough, we can close, we can shut our doors, we can go do something else. And so that was I had seen it work, and again, United Way is 100 years old. It's been running for so long, it's hard for it to not work.
Too big to fail.
Yeah.
Too big to fail.
Right.
Yeah.
But in seeing the challenges of it, I also thought there is a way for this to work in a modern society, right? In a modern marketplace. And so that got me really committed to that specific revenue stream.
Yeah, moving away from the payroll deduction and the employer tie is smart. Yeah, because then it's a direct relationship with an individual and individual giving. So,
right, and when they go from that job to that job to that job to freelancing, then they're
you don't lose them. Yeah,
exactly.
Or have to convince them to convince your employer to do this too. Yeah. No, it's brilliant, man. Seriously. When we look at some of the businesses that you have supported through the grants and some of the work that you've been done, I mean, you think of things like fintech and AI and e-commerce and the technology transformation that's probably occurring in a lot of these businesses. How are you helping, and what is GIFT's role in helping them start to adapt to maybe some of these changes that are coming for some of these small businesses?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time. Specifically when it comes to AI, right? We spend a lot of time helping businesses understand how they can looking at a new business plan, right? Looking at a new operational model. How do you integrate some of these tools? What is it that your business needs to do, and how can this new advancement in technology, this new AI, make some of that easier for you? Right, we never encourage anybody to resist against the wave of AI. It's here, it's happening, it is already, it's being adopted, and so
it's going to happen with you or to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we integrate a lot of that into our business coaching, into our classes. We haven't specifically. We've done one specialty class specifically around AI, but we haven't had any ongoing classes around how to use and integrate AI. Just integrating that into what our other classes do.
You think a lot of the small businesses that you work with understand the shifting tides of fintech capabilities, e-commerce, AI, some of those things, or does it worry you to see some of the small businesses that might not be thinking about the next wave of technology or the next thing that might impact their business?
Does it worry me? Not necessarily. Mainly, I don't know. I am not a bleeding heart, right? And our goal is to help businesses work as hard as they want to work to grow, scale, and be successful. And I also am not one. I don't have a belief that everybody needs to or could be an entrepreneur. But I do know that if there's an entrepreneur right now that is resisting or that isn't fully understanding the market shifts, there are multiple other entrepreneurs in their same area, in their same neighborhoods, or people that have the potential to be entrepreneurs that can hop in and do it. And so I'm not of the belief that we need to really, if somebody is resistant, we really need to hold on and help them learn.
Mm-hmm.
and help them learn whether they want to or not.
Yep.
It is, we need high volume. Here's all the stuff that's happening. Bring in as many people as possible. So
this
that
goes back to your focus. Like,
right.
But you got to keep my focus.
Exactly.
Like I can't,
Exactly.
Brandon, you sit at the intersection of nonprofit, creative enterprise, community activism, being a leader across like maybe different domains. What have you learned about leadership, or what's been your greatest shift as a leader, having been in these spaces now?
Yeah. I've learned patience, right? I mean, patience, modeling. I need to, and just the necessity of a team. One of the biggest things I learned in growing Gift in general, right, is the early days. It was me, co-founder, and we were just doing stuff and going and going and going and going and going, and we got far, right? But in bringing in a team and developing real systems and processes, and being able to trust this one person to do this specific thing and this person to do this specific thing, I had to learn that is not me fade into the background and becoming unimportant. It is me, modeling what success looks like for my new team members, having the patience to let them fail, let them learn, let them grow, and in taking that into just life and community and social growth. Those two same things exist, right? I think leaders of our communities. We got politicians, business leaders, civic leaders. It is, as a leader, I've learned it is important to one, communicate your message, but also communicate it through action. Like you have to model the behavior that you are trying to see, and it is, which I used to do, but it is somewhat foolish to be impatient on social change, right? Because that is not beneficial. You bang your head against the wall, you're yelling at everybody, and now nothing. You're actively working against your own benefit, and that is not good leadership.
Yeah, it took a long time to set these systems in place and cultural norms and some of these things. To think that we can change them overnight is a fool's errand. Yeah, for sure. What's a near setback or failure that you've had to deal with that's kind of been essential in kind of teaching you about resilience? And maybe it wasn't even this. Maybe it was previously in your career or other things that you had done. That's really kind of like help frame who you are, frame what you do.
Yeah, a near setback or failure. I'll go to the Army, right? When I was in basic training, I did a whole lot of stuff really well. The push-ups, sit-ups. I'm an expert marksman, and the one of I almost quit. I almost quit basic training because they gas you. I don't know if you like when you're in basic training, they put you in a tent. They throw CS gas at you, and it's functional, right? You go in with your gas mask. You have to take it off. You got to say all of the stuff. You got to say your ABCs and your name, rank, blood type, all of that, and then put the mask back on, clear the air. And so it was beneficial because if you don't know how to actually do that, then it's hazardous in a combat zone. But it's also just training. Yeah. And so I went in there. I think I took off my mask. I did the thing, put it back on, and then I threw up. I threw up in my mask, and I think I was part of either the last group or the second to last group, and people fail basic training all the time, and that is actually one of the very typical points where people fail basic training, and I had the option, and I had the option to, I don't know, pack it up and go home,
Yeah,
or
quit or move on.
to clean the vomit out of my mask myself and put it back on and be the only one in there with the drill sergeants yelling at me and deal with the thing. And I don't know. I remember that. Or when I feel like quitting, when I feel like we're going through something challenging, I do. I don't know, that randomly pops up in my mind.
I did that. I can do this.
Right.
This is not as hard as that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, that was literally. I mean, they weren't going to let me die, but that was. Yeah. It was a lot more dangerous than some of the other stuff I deal with.
I find a common thread in a lot of people I talk to about resilience and things like that is that is not a later in life thing. That is something that was like imprinted on you at a formative point in your life. Usually, early adulthood is the latest where you start to see those things that start to happen to people.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because I'll talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and they'll talk about their experiences, like my first job in the restaurant, or like not things that they've learned later on, but it's these like things and they stick with you. They stay with you. I still remember, getting rejected on very specific calls in telemarketing where people would, keep you on the phone to ruin your handle time and call you and you can't hang up on them. And you're just like, oh my gosh, what am I ever going to do? And I just like remember those things just sticking with me. So it's interesting that, stories like that are what continue to drive you today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Let me ask you, if you could fund one initiative with an unlimited budget, something that changes how Kansas City builds wealth and creativity for Black and brown people, not Kansas City Gift, what would you create and why?
One initiative with an unlimited budget. I mean, I just said the thing about the multifaceted approach. So one initiative. Gosh, I'm torn between two.
Give me both.
So there's an initiative that I know of. It's called Be Great Together, right? It does some similar stuff that we do, but they provide grants to teacher and student-led initiatives directly in schools, right? So, I mean, they built a school store down at Northeast High School. They built a multilingual library in another school. I don't remember where it was. They built a 3D printing lab in another one, and they are increasing the quality of education inside of inner city schools, and they're doing it a classroom at a time, and they've been shown to work, right? And so I think if we were able to really drastically increase that, we'd increase college access, we'd increase a lot of positive outcomes. And then I also think about an organization called Green Line Initiative, right? So their core program is about buying up houses on the east side, refurbishing those houses, and then selling them to renters for below market value, so they come in with some equity already. And I think Be Great Together does a great job of targeting the next generation. But I never like the idea of just focusing on the next generation and telling everybody, all of the current adults that your time has passed. Yeah, right. Like you'll crash, but hopefully we can help your kids.
That message starts to hit harder as you get older.
I've never liked it. I've never liked it. It's one of the reasons we don't get into youth entrepreneurship, because there are enough people into youth entrepreneurship. But that is a program that if scaled to the proper size, can have a massive economic benefit on the east side of Kansas City for Black and brown families. Those two together could really transform Kansas City.
Well, man, it's been impressive watching in a relatively short amount of time the amount of traction and progress you've been able to make with Kansas City Gift, and then also understanding the Blurred culture and understanding kind of what you're building on that side too with Blurred Media. It's impressive. You're like this modern renaissance man here, really making change for the community, and I'm a fan, man. It's just, it's great to have you here. It's great to have you, telling your story. And so, and I appreciate all you're doing for the community and for Kansas City.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be using my skills in a way that's driving some things forward that I'm passionate about and that feel logical to me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being on the podcast. And if there's anything we can do for you here at Keystone, you please let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be happy to do that. So
yes, sir.
Right on. I think. Nope. All right. I think it's a wrap. Thanks again, man. Thanks for being here, and thanks for doing this. And I think we'll call it a night.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Anytime you need me back, let me know. I'm happy to come back.
Anything you wanted to share that you get a chance to share?
Well, I think that I'm always happy with the work that we're doing in the entrepreneur community of Kansas City. And there are a lot of other people doing the similar work. There's Porterhouse, there's Prospect Business Association, but then there's also you, right? And so I appreciate that you have this space that cultivates current entrepreneurship, the next generation of entrepreneurship. And this, I think our ecosystem gets a lot of it could be better. We could do this, or we could do that, or we could do this. But I do think we have a really strong entrepreneur ecosystem in Kansas City, and one where if I decide to start, grow, scale a business, or if I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of different entry points for that. And so I appreciate you building this to fulfill the need that we have in our ecosystem.
I appreciate you saying that, man. And for me, I get frustrated that the funders often, I feel like, pit us against each other, they want us to pick, you only get one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, actually, we probably need more of us.
Right.
Because we all fill a different kind of role, and there's not one kind of entrepreneur that needs one kind of support. And so I appreciate you saying that. And that's why I like I said, I'm a fan, because what you're doing is, and you've been very clear about it, very focused on a goal and a mission and a thing that needs to happen. And that if we all focused and played that role, and we could help on the storytelling side, the funders understand that, no, there's a need for this whole pipeline and this whole ecosystem and this whole thing. That's what it's, again, it goes back to calculus.
Yeah.
It's not addition and subtraction in this instance. It's more like calculus, and you need to get behind all of us. Is kind of the message. So
yeah, absolutely, man.
Thanks for saying that, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. This is true. Thank you for building this.
Cool. All right. That's it. It's a wrap for tonight. Thank you. Appreciate it.